Hello, fellow warriors. Welcome to another episode of Divided, Survived, and Thriving. I am Laila Aitken, a divorcee, a divorce coach, and the founder of Split FYI, which is an online divorce community with like-minded and kindred spirits, rich in resources and information for anyone going through a divorce and separation. So, as some of you know, I do love interviewing some badass humans who have not only survived divorce, but have come out the other side, took control of their lives, and rewrote their own story. So these conversations are about turning the painful process of divorce into a positive force in your life. The Divided, Survived, and Thriving also host stories of resilience, passion, grit, and familiarity with grace and survival techniques. This is a great place to feel understood, motivated, and in community. So I know that divorce helped empower me and my guests. Most of all, it also helped me understand what it meant to be my best advocate. So I hope we can do the same for you. Without further ado, my guest for today is the divorce goddess herself. Yes, Tosh Brittan. With a name like that, she is destined to be famous, and certainly has made her name for herself in the divorce community, the world of podcasting, and you know. I just love the fact that she calls herself the divorce goddess, because she is. Her personality brings me back to a cup of tea. It's why I've got my cup of tea on a cozy rainy day in England. And I always enjoy our banter. In fact, we talk too much usually. So today we will not only learn about her journey with divorce, but how she consciously chose a different approach to her divorce. And that is one of self-kindness and kindness all around, and mindfulness. So kind is not something that you hear a lot in the world of divorce, but at this rate, Tosh will be changing all of that. Now, Tosh, thank you for like a million times over for being here today. And I feel like at this point, we could just dive into your story. I know that was a long intro, but
it was a lovely intro. It always makes me laugh when people say the divorce goddess, because I think actually divorce goddess is about a way of thinking and a way of looking at how you want to go through your divorce rather than me owning it. And it always makes me laugh when people go, the divorce goddess, because I'm like, oh, and they're like, come on, own it. So it's hilarious. I love it. So I just had a thing when I started going through my divorce, and both very strong, determined, stubborn people. And I guess my story starts with a conversation with some lawyers, family friends who are lawyers. And I went round to their house and they were going, you got to go after him, you got to get this, you got to get that. And I was literally sort of standing there just feeling like a rabbit in the headlights. And what I remembered most of all was I just had this enormous rock of fear in my stomach. The thought of going into court and battling, it was so scary. And I remember just sort of standing there thinking, oh my God, I just don't want to feel like this. And I took my dogs for a walk and I had a little think in the English rain. And I just thought, what am I going to do? And my parents had a divorce, and 30 years later, they don't talk to each other. And I just thought, do you know what? I am just going to give it a go. And we were going through bankruptcy at the same time, or pretty much near bankruptcy. So we had a whole heap of whatever going on, and whatever was left at the end of the day was, we could have really gone for it and, just decided to sort of fight for whatever was left. And I just thought, I'm going to do it differently. So I'm going to throw kindness at it, and I'm just going to be the best person I can be and see what happens. And I remember having a conversation with my ex, and I think he just didn't know what to do with this new person who was standing in front of him going, I think I don't want to fight. I'm not going to fight you. I want us to do it kindly. I want us to do it respectfully. If you're up for that, if you're tired of fighting and you want to do it a different way for the sake of our children, so at least we can put a roof over their heads, in the future and don't spend it all, and that we can come out of this in an okay way. How about it? And I think he remembers sort of driving off going, oh my God, there's something in this. There's like, you know, there's a ruse in here. And I just thought, well, I've said it. And even if he does want to play ball, which obviously is so often the case in many divorces, that people just don't always want to be kind, I just thought, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to throw kindness at you so much that you get so fed up that you start being really kind to me. And I literally just thought, I'm just going to do this, the stubborn bit of me. And so every time something came up that was an issue, like meeting new partners or anything, I literally just I call it emotionally flatlining. And I would just be really calm. I would just get over myself, and I'd be cool and firm and strong, but I would just be emotionally completely functional about it. Mm-hmm. And I think for women particularly, and I hope nobody gets upset about this, that we get so emotionally involved in all of this, that actually, you know, your exes don't need to do anything to help you when you decide to get divorced, and expecting any emotional interaction after that is just really needs to stop right now, you know, as soon as you can. And I just said to him, I said, Con, let's, you know, why don't we try project managing it? And he got that, because it was something that wasn't attached to emotions. And we kind of built this sort of framework, not sat down together, but we just kind of built this framework of how we wanted our divorce to be, and what we could do, and using the best bits of our marriage. And I think so often, if you've spent a long time with somebody, there were good things that you were both good at together to build this life. And it's using those bits to build your future out of the end, you know. So well, it's not even the end if you have children, but we just we just thought, you know, and then all the fluff and everything else, you just being aware as well. And that's where the mindfulness thing came in, and it was all crashing down, and people going, you're so cool about this. And don't get me wrong, I had days where I literally thought I was going to hit the wall. And actually one day I did hit a wall. And I just remember thinking, you just got to start looking after yourself. You've got to look after your mental well-being. And I talk about the divorce mind monkeys. You know, they kind of get really busy, they kick up, they sense when there's, you know, trouble afoot, and they just mess with your head. And as soon as you can get into that space where you can see what they're up to, like, you are not your thoughts, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, you are not your thoughts. And when you're tired and you're exhausted and you're stressed and you're grieving and you're heartbroken, these divorce mind monkeys can just run away with it. And it's about actually, and that's when mindfulness literally saved my life. And I just thought, you've got to start doing this, because you cannot live in your head. Your head is so mad with thoughts and crazy thoughts about your future that you're not going to survive unless you do something. And I just sat down one day and I just thought, just sit and force yourself to just take deep breaths, just be quiet for like half an hour and just focus on your breath. And I did that, and I went, oh, that was quite nice. The next time wasn't, of course, because the mind monkeys were really, really, really busy. But I just thought, I'm just going to do it. And so mindfulness is all part of the whole compassionate and kind thing. And it's not about being a walkover or a doormat.
I'm glad that you clarified that. And I'm also glad that what you're saying is that I think a lot of times when people think, oh, mindfulness, how could I even get to that state when you are so cerebral and your mind is going 50 miles a minute and you have anxiety. I mean, there's anxiety attacks that occur. You stop breathing. I mean, there's so many things it's visceral effect, right? That on your body, that people say there's no way I can get to that state. And they've already put that blockage. And I tend to say, and I know you agree, and I've heard you talk about this a lot, you know, it just starts with a little bit. And maybe the next time it won't be that easy. But if you do it once and you keep trying to do it, then eventually it becomes a habit. And it becomes something that you go to first. And it's not the cure for all of it, but it helps calm you down to see straight, because it's so hard to see straight, right? When you're in that influx of.
I kind of liken it to, if you think of like a lake or the sea, and if
Mhm.
you've ever dived or done any snorkeling or anything, you know, it might be really busy, and like the sort of, you know, the weather patterns or the sea or the storm that's going on top of the water. But if you dive down the sea, it's still and it's quiet. And so when people say, oh, I can't do this mindful, what is it? You know, we actually are all mindful inside. We have it within all of us. We've just layered it up with all this stuff and conditioning that we can't do it, and, you know, life events and all that stuff. And we've forgotten actually how powerful we are, and we have access to it. And it's, you know, it does take practice. It's like anything, but it's like learning to walk, you know, it's the children learning to ride a bicycle. You have to practice, and then it gets good. You know, sometimes you crash or you fall over, but that's life, isn't it?
Did you find yourself often talking to yourself though? Like, and I know I did this, and it's like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Why are you saying that? Why are you doing this? Why are you feeling this way? All that why, the why.
The why. I used to talk to myself. I had this mantra, and it was, you will not have my anger. And I used to march up this hill. I'm going to share with you a story, and it's just down the road from me, and it's actually called Butser Hill, and it's
But
so steep. You can only ever have a great butt if you walk up it enough times. So I tell you what, after I divorced, I was marching up there going, you will not have my anger, you will not have my anger, you will not have my anger. And I just did not want, because if I got angry and he would have seen it, it's not that I didn't get angry, but I was just like, I don't want you to walk away having triggered me, knowing that I'm going to give you all my energy and you'll walk off triumphant.
100%.
Does that make sense? Did I explain
100%.
myself? And you just go, and it's that whole thing. And people say, they did this to me, they did that to me. And, when I work with people, I say, I love Byron Katie's analogy of the backyards. And it's like, when you're thinking about what your ex is doing to you all the time, you are in their backyard. You are giving your ex, and maybe his new partner or her new partner, all this lovely energy by thinking about them. And you're out your backyard. And I'm like, get back in your backyard, look after yourself, get yours, do whatever you've got to do. Like coach, therapist, mindfulness, yoga, running, whatever it is.
Right.
Kickboxing.
Sometimes it takes all of them. I mean, it really does, as much as you can fit in. And if there are days that you don't do any of them, it's okay too. It's not being hard on yourself, right? So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you, I mean, obviously this journey of mindfulness and, exploring ways of kindness and how not to approach it with negativity. Fantastic. But how did you find time for like yourself to deal with all, give us a little bit of what helped you with the kids. I know you have children, being a single mom, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so what I realized is that children have got these incredible radars, and they know it's going down before you do. Mm-hmm. And I just realized that I had to keep myself in a good place, and I had to make time to, go and exercise or do squats or whatever I need to do just to keep fit and well and strong, because you've got to be strong, otherwise you're going to get ill. And it's about eating well as well, and not being tempted to like hit the wine because you're feeling miserable, although there's nothing wrong. I've eaten my fair share of chocolate and drunk wine. I'm not going to say I haven't at all, but it really is about, I think it's just about that self-talk as well. And I remember a very wise person said to me, honey, you've got to take that word should outside, write it on a piece of paper and burn it.
Oh, I love that.
Get rid of that word should now. And the other thing somebody said to me was, just be really aware of the words you use. If you walk around saying, they did this to me, they did that to me, and I'm not this, or I'm stupid, or I'm a failure, because all this stuff, we feel, because, it's huge what happens with any split, whether it's a relationship, a divorce, or whatever we're talking about. And just to be really aware of the words you use. And a really good tip I would suggest is just message all your great buddies and your friends and ask them to write down 3 words to describe you.
Oh, I like that.
And then you get your top 6 words of, kind of do a little exercise going, oh, there's another one there and there's another one there. And I've got it here actually. And then,
oh, I like that. Of course,
it's been around for a bit. Kind, and then you write it down, the 6 words that your friends have described you as being, the top 6, and you write it down, you stick it somewhere every day, and you say to yourself, like I say to myself, I'm kind, I'm inspirational, I'm calm, I'm genuine, I'm strong, I'm positive. And that is what came up. Fuel yourself,
100%. And I think this exercise is fantastic. I was having a conversation about how one of the hardest things for friends and people in your life when you're going through something so traumatic as a divorce, separation, split, it's hard for them to understand how to help you. It's hard for them to understand how to be there for you, especially if they haven't gone through it. But when you give them specific things to do for you, i.e., can you write down 3 things that you love about me, that you would describe me as? I mean, that they can do with a heartbeat, like just in 1 second. Oh my God, thank you. Yes, I can do that for you, And if you give them those little action items, it's like they feel okay. And it reminds you of who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a constant.
And also you get to, and it gives you that courage to, reach out to all these people, and find out if these people are going to be your friends in the future, rather than going, oh, I don't know if they are or not. You're going to know who your friends are. Yeah. And whether you do it on social media or however you do it, you get to speak to people, you get to reconnect with people, you're giving your friends something positive to say, do you know what? I really need to know what, 3 words, what do you think of it? And they'll just go, wow. And as you said, it's like, it's a gift to everybody. You feel good. They feel good. Everybody's had a little chat. Winner.
It's a winner. I love that tip. And I love that you still have those words sitting next to you. I mean, it's great. It's like the vision board, something that people have to add onto that vision board and remind themselves. I think often what we do is we do forget about who we are. And when we go through a separation like that, when our identity shifts, we always talk about that identity shift. You go from, in your case, always a mom, but a wife, and wife to not a wife anymore. Okay, so that title is taken, and all of a sudden, we don't look at it as a title. We look at it as a role and as our identity. And all of a sudden it's taken. It's really hard. How do people see us? How else do they see us? We need that reminding. We need that understanding. How do I see myself? How do you start feeling good about yourself? Tell me some of the things besides the mindfulness, and you shared a lot. But was there a particular, and I love the walking up the hill and, working out and all of that, but that was a mantra to get you out of the anger. Was there something particular you said about yourself to yourself that helped you?
I used to just tell myself that I used to take myself back to a really happy, confident time when I was younger. And I used to just go and revisit it. And I was like, and I remembered some of the things I did without even a care, because we didn't have this stuff layered on us about whether it's right or wrong. Are we going to be judged? Are we going to be compared? What was all that, And I just remember thinking, girl, we've got, how can I share? So you'll know this because you've lived in the UK, but yeah, of course you will. I don't know why I'm even thinking about that. Laurel Hardy, Stan and Laurel Hardy. Yeah. Okay. Right. So they always used to say, this is another fine mess you've got me into.
Yeah.
And I just had that ringing in my head going, well, girl, this is another fine mess you've got yourself into. Time to get yourself out. Sorry, right. They're American. Of course they are. Sorry. And it really was that you've got to get yourself out of this. And every time you consciously make a decision to do something purposeful, to do this, whether it's, having another glass of water or glass of wine or anything, it can be really small. It doesn't have to be these massive seismic shifts at all. It's just small stuff. You are committing to you. And one of my kind of like taglines is, your divorce is not about your ex, it is about you.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves thinking so much about what is going on over there that we actually, every time we bring ourselves back, we're honoring ourselves. We're giving ourselves that time and that self-care and that love to be with ourselves. And I just think that's part of a really important healing process going forwards. And then having a new relationship, if you choose to have a new relationship, we've got to come back to ourselves. We are our home. I think.
I love that, what you just said, because in fact, everything that makes us feel, I often say, oh, this makes me feel like home. This makes me feel comfortable. This makes me feel like home. And it's that feeling. And home, it doesn't mean it's not four walls. It's not a roof over the head. It's a feeling that really wherever you are, I've got my dog too, don't worry about that. It's wherever you are in yourself, that contentment, that happiness. And I think it is challenged when you have an ex and you're wondering what they're doing or why they said this or who they're with, or if you're constantly worrying about that, you're never going to concentrate on your life and what makes you happy. I often also see this goes back to and ties back to our mindfulness conversation and that flatlining. I like that, how you describe that. Very difficult to emotionally flatline when, again, you're constantly ruminating over what their other person is saying or the ex is saying, and how they said it and what is the meaning behind it. Now, I remember I see this in my clients, I see this in the community, and I see it, I used to do it. You sit there and go, well, he said this, but what does he really mean? Because in that, it means this, this, and this, and that. It doesn't really matter. Instead, and that's the emotion bit, right? You're putting all this emotion into it, instead of really what is just written on that paper, that email or that text message or whatever communication that you're having with your ex. And so your mind goes into all these different places. That's where, again, going back to that mindful technique, so important.
And the mind monkeys get to work, as soon as that, they look at that sentence or that email or that text or that message, as you say, and suddenly they're literally rubbing their hands going, all right, where are we going to take them? Where are we going to take her or him now? Where are we off to? And that is why you've really training your mind. You just come back, focusing on your mind, get good at focusing on mind. And I just want to say, I was never always this person. I used to be this 100-mile-an-hour person. And I congratulate myself for being this person who could spin so many plates at once. And I just thought I had it all down. And really, I was just screwing myself up royally for when it did hit the wall, because I just didn't know how to manage anything.
Right. Which often I think we do this, I don't know, just to, I guess, not to face what we really need to face. Right. It's the distraction, the going super fast through everything. And it takes a lot to apply the mindfulness and that ability to just breathe and calm down and realize that you're making up a lot of these things. And even if you're not making up, it doesn't actually matter because it's not a reality. So many people can say things to you. So many people, your ex can throw so many things at you. It doesn't matter. That's his story or her story or whatever it is, right?
And it doesn't stop happening as well. I mean, just about a couple of months ago, something happened. I felt like, and I was just about to do it, and I just went, don't say anything. And in fact, actually, he kicked off, and I was looking at him going, wow. So back in the day, that would have been me.
Right.
And it is hard. I mean, I sit here, but literally, I I cannot tell everybody enough to just do some meditation. Just do, even if you walk up the stairs and you're focusing on what you're doing, how your legs are moving, how your hand is feeling on the handrail, how your body is moving, taking deep breaths, even just for 30 seconds,
right,
that is taking control of your mind. And if you do that enough times, you sit, I mean, it's so easy to integrate all this stuff into your life. And because otherwise you're just, it's like getting off that travelator, you know, that sort of walkway through an airport. What's an airport anymore? I don't know. I would love to see an airport.
Yeah.
But you know, life, it's like life is just not going to slow down anytime soon. So we have to do it ourselves.
I agree.
And
yeah.
And it is hard, but with anything, I love this quote, and I'm trying to remember which Olympian said it, but it's like, you've got to do what you don't want to do to get to where you want to go.
Yes.
100%. Everybody has to say that, you know, it's not like he enjoyed getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to train on a track and loved it, but he wanted to get to an Olympic standard. So he knew he had to put the work in. And if you want to feel calmer and you want to feel more chilled about life, it takes work. You don't just wake up one day and go, oh yeah, everything's okay. Well, you can if you want to, but it's still going on underneath. It's plaster.
Yeah. And I think that's what I like about your story, is that it wasn't this quick fix and all of a sudden I'm going to be in Zen. And, you know, applying that kindness and applying that mindfulness, it took a lot of work and time and effort and a lot of modalities. From what, you know, you've shared with us, I mean, it takes walking up a butt hill, and it takes, you know, working out, or just sitting there and breathing, and it, you know, so many different things that you have to throw yourself into to try to just get back into yourself. Talking to yourself.
But a lot of people just don't want to get into themselves because they don't like themselves, because they spend so much time telling themselves they're stupid, or I hate myself, or I'm such an idiot. And you just go, I just want people just to be kind to themselves, just to speak kindly to themselves, just to be gentle with themselves. So get that list.
And that's an interesting thing, because you know, and you and I both know it, that a lot of people have that self-talk that's so negative, but they've also had and endured a relationship where they've been thrown a lot of negativity towards them. So they've accumulated so much weight on them. And it's not always obvious. And that's what's interesting, you know, like we've been in relationships end for a reason, for many different reasons, for sure. But underlyingly, it usually gets to a point where negative things are said to back and forth to one another, right? And even if you're the person saying them, you still feel like crap. It's not going to make you feel better for saying something mean to someone.
No, it doesn't.
You've got this accumulation of negativity that you've got to shake. And so, I mean, number one, first step I think everybody should be doing and take away from this chat is that, you know, find what people think about you, the positive things that people say about you or think about you or feel about you, and then, you know, write those down and keep looking at those
and say them to yourself every morning. I am this, I am that, and start overriding, you know, the mind monkey thoughts.
They're crazy. So what other thing, I mean, besides, you know, taking this, you know, your story and what you've went through and applying it to what you do now, which is fantastic. You know, you're helping so many people get through their own divorce, separation, split. And your podcast is just phenomenal. I love listening to you and your voice, by the way.
Thank you.
What does Tosh think thriving is all about? That is something, you know, I try to ask a lot of my guests this, that, you know, I call it divide, survive. and thriving. And it is a survival. You know, you survive divorce. It is something that you need to survive. Not easy. Sometimes you're thrown into it. Sometimes, you know, you have to do it, but you don't really want to. And you're unhappy and all these things. But you've got to survive all of those feelings, the aftermath, the divided of assets, all of that. What's your thriving?
My thriving is doing the work.
Great.
Clearing your decks. If you got stuff going on that you go, oh no, it won't be like this with this relationship, or I won't do this when that happens, like, just sort it out. Go and get help. Just clear your decks. Get the stuff out that you don't want to look at. Deal with it, and it will be less heavier walking forwards in life. And you know, we don't all get to where we've got without not having any stuff to shift. But actually, you know, you have the choice ultimately if you want to carry on living with the same old stuff coming up and biting on the backside, or you can just go, do you know what? And actually, the other thing I wanted to say as well, thriving is, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, maybe not. I got some feathers in my hair.
Oh, I love those.
And I remember about when I hit 50, which is about 2 years ago, I remember thinking, my stepmother actually said to me, would you like to have some feathers in your hair? And I went, do you know what, I'm going to. And my daughter went, Mum, really? And I went, oh, I don't care. I want feathers in my hair. And if you want to thrive, you just do what you want to do. If it's good and it's kind. And there's this very famous English author and coach who wrote this amazing book about cancer. And she just said, I always wanted to have purple hair. And she said, now I have purple hair and nobody is going to take the fact I have purple hair away from me. And I just thought life is too short not to be bold, not to honor yourself. And if you want to have something, just do it. Just do it. Who cares? If anybody cares anything about what you're doing, that's their stuff. That's not yours.
Exactly.
So you're going to get me all fighting and warrioress again. I'm going to be like, but that's what I love, you know, and I see women I work with particularly, they just come in and then they just go, oh, one lady, she went and walked the Annapurna Trail in Nepal. And she hadn't been out of the country for years. And she went, I just want you to know, I've booked a trip on my own and I'm going to Nepal to walk. And I was just like,
that's brilliant.
But that's thriving, and we all have it within us to do it. It's not about somebody else can do it, or they always do that, because they get out their front door and they book that ticket and they walk out that front door with feathers in their hair. They go and buy that hair dye. They go and buy those fancy red knickers. I'm a real fan, by the way. I've got to bring it up.
You know what? Me too. I actually agree with
I'm
you.
Such a fan.
Let me tell you.
It's like the first thing I tell everybody is, and then they kind of go, yeah, maybe not. Go and buy a pair of red knickers, because if nothing else, you know, you've got a pair of fancy pants on underneath, no matter what is happening, no matter what meeting you're turning up to, what conversation you're having with your ex, you know, something a little bit mischievous, a little bit naughty that nobody else does.
That on that note, I mean, you can't thrive any more than that. That's perfect. Oh, thank you, Tosh.
Pleasure. It's lovely
Before we, I mean, you know, I can talk on forever with you, and probably we will after we get off of this chat. But I wanted to, if you could just share with the audience where people could find you and your podcast. I know I've mentioned it, but.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm on Instagram as @Divorce Goddess, and not it's @Divorce Goddess, and the podcast is Divorce Goddess Podcast. And I just want to thank all you lovely people over the pond, because it got to number 41 in the US relationship charts after 12 episodes. I mean, insane.
Great. Honestly,
people were saying to me, how did you do that? I don't know, I just kind of put it out and it just went.
I'm telling you, it's that voice and everything you have to say. It's great. It's
Oh,
great.
you're very sweet. Thank you.
No, it's a powerful, highly recommend your podcast to everyone. You learn a lot, and you have great people who you interview as well. So,
and I hope you come on it as well, and we can have a chat about life and the
I
universe.
Oh, for sure.
I'd love that.
Thank you. Thank
you so much, and thank you all for watching and listening as well. Thank you.
This has been another episode of Divided, Survived, and Thriving. Thank you for joining us.